Carson's podcast, actually. Welcome. What's your name?
My name is Ashe.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Digging the feathers. Ashe. Ashe. Okay. Welcome. Where'd you come? Is your first time here?
It is.
Okay. Where'd you come from?
Nashville, Tennessee.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You're just passing through, or you moved to Tucson?
I moved to Tucson.
Welcome. Welcome to Krishna Cove. Thank you for coming. Yeah. What brought you out to Tucson? Divine arrangement?
Yes.
Nice.
Divine guidance.
We always love that. Let me turn this. A lot of lights up. Om Ajnana Tamarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurue Namaha. I was born in the darkest ignorance. My spiritual master is opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. So, it was a beautiful trip. I just returned last week. 1 week ago on Thursday, I returned from. I was there for about 3.5 weeks. Generally, the last 2 times I went, I've stayed 5 to 5.5 months. So what I found out was that 3 weeks is certainly not enough time to be in Mayapur. You need, going for the few months is really nectar. It really gives you time to absorb yourself in the nectar of the holy place. So it was a beautiful experience. And there was a lot of realization when you're in the holy Dham. Many times Krishna gives you more than what you would get other places. You get more internal realization in the holy Dham. And it's just an amazing experience to be in the land of Lord Chaitanya. Sometimes we struggle to chant our 16 rounds, and when you're in Mayapur, chanting becomes so easy. And I just started chanting 50 rounds a day, 40 to 50 rounds every day, and it seemed like nothing. And it's just the mercy of the Dham that we can do something like that. And once I returned here, immediately struggling again, 16. So this is the power of being in Mayapur. So it was my great fortune and the mercy of my spiritual master to be able to stay there, have some experience. So I had some realizations, and I got to meet a lot of wonderful advanced souls and speak with them. And by doing so, we always gain insights. So today I wanted to talk about internal life in Krishna consciousness. And so starting on the premise that ideally religion, spirituality, whatever form of spiritual practice you're doing, ideally it's going to give you some type of happiness. Even if that happiness is as mundane as, I don't want to go to the bad place, which is a very low form of consciousness, right? That I'm doing this so I don't go to hell. But still, at least I think that not going to hell would make me happier than going to hell. Although devotees might disagree. Sometimes we like hell. It's a good place to save souls. So ideally, religion, spirituality, meditation, all these things, they're going to give you some type of happiness, and that's why you're doing them. And we come across this fundamental realization in the material world, and this is karma, that activities cause bondage. Every action has a reaction. And so this is our big, wall that we reach in terms of trying to find happiness. Everybody's trying to seek happiness. Every entity is seeking happiness. This is a fundamental truth. But the wall that we bump into in that pursuit of happiness is actions cause bondage. When we perform activities, we become entangled in various types of actions and reactions. This is called the law of karma. So the process of Krishna consciousness is a process by which we can diminish those reactions and act in a way where we don't create any type of reaction. So it's a gyartat karmayon yatra lokiyam karmabandha taratam karmakonteya mukta sangha samachara. That all activities should be performed as a sacrifice, as an offering to God, to Vishnu. Otherwise, actions cause bondage in this material world. So unless we're acting on behalf of Krishna, whatever we're doing, whether it seems like good or seems bad, whatever it is, it's causing some type of bondage. So in regards to coming to this platform of acting only for Krishna, it's simple in concept, but it's not as easy as it seems. So in coming to that stage of actually being Krishna conscious and acting only for Krishna, there's some necessities that have to happen in your spiritual life. Even if you call yourself a devotee, we wear the tilak, we get up for Mangalartik, we chant, we do all these activities. If we don't develop this special thing, we're not going to actually advance in spiritual life. No matter how much we appear advanced, we're still going to become bound by our activities. And that is, a devotee must have a rich internal life. A spiritual person must have a rich internal life. Must have some very serious things going on in the heart. Some very beautiful things must happen in the heart of a devotee. And those things are so pleasing and so satisfying to the soul that they allow us to detach ourselves from these material aspirations, which can be gross. They can be like gross sense gratification. I want beautiful women and money. Or they can be subtle. I want to be adored by beautiful women. Or I want to be, famous. I want to be seen as a very good, whatever it is. I want to be seen as a humble person. I want to be a nice guy. Whatever this is, if we don't have the proper internal reality, then no matter how spiritual we call ourselves or even know ourselves, still our activities will cause bondage. And that bondage will always take away our joy, take away our ability to experience that bliss. So there's a verse from the Bhagavad Gita I want to read, 5:24. And I'll read the Sanskrit because it's very beautiful. Yonta shukontara ramas tatantar jyotirevaya sa yogi brahma nirvanam brahma bhuto digachati. Translation: one whose happiness is within, who is active and rejoices within, and whose aim is inward, is actually the perfect mystic. He is liberated in the Supreme, and ultimately he attains the Supreme. So this is a very powerful statement Krishna is making here. Krishna is speaking about so many things, and he's speaking about action right now, speaking about various actions. Now he's making this point that one whose happiness is within, who is active and rejoices within, and whose aim is inward. How many people have an inward aim? Not very many people. Not even very many devotees. We have so many goals. I want to do this. I'm going to have this. I'm organizing my spiritual life so that someday I can be Krishna conscious. But the real thing is that we should have an inward aim. So if we're getting caught up in these externals, then so many things happen. He's actually the perfect mystic. He's liberated in the Supreme, and ultimately he attains the Supreme. So in the purport to this verse, Prabhupada makes this point that internal satisfaction is this internal satisfaction that is going to equal the diminishing of fruitive activities. The more we become internally satisfied, the more we become spiritually aware and have this internal experience, the more that it becomes easy to detach ourselves from these types of material ambitions. What are these material ambitions? Kama. People want types of sense gratification. They want to see beautiful things, touch beautiful things, associate with beautiful people. They want to smell beautiful things and be in beautiful places and enjoy opulences. Kama artha. They want money. People are looking after economic development. Oh, I'm not making enough money, and therefore I'm stressed out, I'm struggling, I'm having so many challenges. Moksha. People want liberation. They even I want to be liberated and enlightened. This is also a type of material goal even. Dharma. I want to be just, I want to be the good guy. I want to be the religious man. Yes.
Sattva.
Sattva means goodness, which also is a type of thing that we're rejecting here in this. It's good, better than rajas or tamas. But even this is what when we refer to dharma, when I'm speaking, that's what I'm referring to. It's just this so-called being a good person, this sattvic life, so to speak, still is not going to give us complete satisfaction. Because even a sattvic life has so many challenges, 4 of which include birth, death, old age, and disease. Even if you're the most sattvic person, still you're going to have to suffer all those things in so many ways. So we need to have this consciousness that allows us to detach, that when we have this internal satisfaction, this rich internal life as a devotee, it actually allows me to, I'm not into that. I'm not going to let my mind go and dwell on this. Because you know what? I'm part and parcel of Krishna. And I'm totally satisfied. So, and it's a thing too, it's not just that, I'm saying we need to learn this. I think it's a challenge for a lot of people, including myself, who are practicing a spiritual path, that, sometimes we think, what am I doing wrong? Right? I'm chanting or I'm doing the process of spiritual life, but yet I'm still deeply affected by material desire. Are we actually focusing on more external, or are we actually focusing? Is our aim really inward? Is our joy really within? So, therefore, tonight's, the substance of tonight's talk, how do we develop an internal spiritual life? What is the process for developing an internal life? So what's the first thing? I'm actually open to suggestions here. We're gonna make this a discussion. What's the first thing we can do to create an internal spiritual life? Yes.
Devoted to the community.
Yes, devotion. I like that word. And service to others. That's a very powerful element. But even that can become external if it's not done in the right consciousness. We see that sometimes, right? That some of these billionaires, they're actually horrendous people, but they're apparently doing so many nice things for our community. Chris?
4 legs.
Yes. I'll come back to that. Anything else?
Turning your internal voice in a conversation, prayers to God.
That's a good one. Yeah, I remember I discovered that one day when I was getting screamed at by a particular person I cared about, and I thought, you know what? I'm just going to turn my internal voice into a prayer. And that was like almost, I was pushing on 10 years ago. So practice has worked. So yeah, I like what Chris said actually, because it comes to the point I want to make is that the first thing we can do to create a rich internal life is to slow down the external life. And so we do that in the Krishna consciousness movement by, first and foremost, we cut the pillars of external illusion consciousness, which are, meat eating, illicit sex, intoxication, and gambling. These things immediately take us from our internal space to our external reality. And that internal reality is supported by cleanliness, as I said, truthfulness, mercifulness, and austerity. So focusing on this austerity, that when we minimize the externals in our lives, it allows space for us to create a rich internal life. And so, focusing in on, perhaps individuals in this room and things that we may, as devotees who are already, trying to follow this process may struggle with is, because of the phones, so much of the time you don't even get a chance to think, because every moment I got to be, looking at the box. And so in that way, you're zapping your ability to create an internal atmosphere and to actually become conscious of your own thoughts. So this is an ultimate manifestation of being external in so many ways. Look at my body. Look at the people look at the other bodies I'm with. Of course, for reading or something Krishna conscious, I can't go 5 minutes without communicating with someone, God forbid. have to, send someone a message. So in that way, we zap our, that's just a minor plug, but we zap our internal experience. So we slow the external life. And I want to give some examples tonight from the Srimad Bhagavatam. We've all heard the story of Prahlad Maharaj. So because we have some guests here, I'll, just give a quick, brief summary. Prahlad Maharaj was born in a very demoniac family. In fact, his father was the greatest demon of all time, Hiranyakashipu. He was such a demon that he conquered all the demigods, all the higher beings. He conquered everybody but Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu. And he was totally ruthless. He was killing Brahmins, killing cows. He was sacrificing Vaishnavas. He was really horrendous personality. And his son just so happened to be born a pure devotee of God. There was some conflict here. That he chose the wrong occupation. And so Prahlad Maharaj, in his devotion to God, angered his father, and his father attempted to kill him in so many ways. But what was Prahlad Maharaj doing through all those, attempted murders? Prahlad Maharaj was thrown in the fire, thrown off a cliff, drowned, poisoned, and so many things. Attacked with deadly weapons, tried to be crushed under elephants. So many ways that his father tried to kill him. And the whole time Prahlad Maharaj was totally internal, correct? He was just chanting Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Prabhupada says he was chanting Hare Krishna. Anyways, he's chanting Krishna's names. He was thinking of God. He was totally internal. And for many of us have seen the recent Mahavatar Nrsimha movie, but one of my favorite scene in that whole movie series, it's like a sequence, is when they're going to drown Prahlad in the ocean. And, he's totally been through hell at this point. It's this totally traumatic, horrendous experience. And Shukracharya is in the boat and they're rowing him. And Prahlad Maharaj is just chanting Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And he's just so internal that he's totally unaware of the fact that they're once again trying to execute him, and they jump him off the cliff into the water. He goes down, sees God. After he comes out, he sees Krishna appears to him, and he becomes totally pure devotee. It's a very beautiful example. So we can be internal also. We're not Prahlad Maharaj. We're not on that level. But the idea is that, when we chant Hare Krishna, it's not an external thing. It's not this thing we do that's just like, that we're thinking that just this chanting without going deep is going to actually really go deep. The mantra is going to go as deep as that we allow it to go, correct? So we should make an effort to go internal. So Prahlad Maharaj, all these horrendous experiences and things were happening in his life, he was internal. He was totally fixed in his position. And we'll come back to that example in a little bit. So the point to make here is that if our internal life is filled with the external, then we don't really have an internal life. And we'll have no steady mind, we'll have no peace. And Krishna says, if you don't have a steady mind, you can't have peace. And if you don't have peace, you can't have happiness. You can't be happy without peace. Peace is the preliminary stage of happiness. So, Prahlad Maharaj was so steady, and he was getting, all these horrendous things were happening to him, but he was so steady because he was fixed in this internal goal of consciousness. If our internal life is filled with external things, if we allow this mental space, which is ours to do with what we like, we have, this is our mind. We can change the subject. We don't have to be subjected to so many things. We can change the subject we're, subjecting ourselves to here, And so if we allow that our internal mind, our thoughts are just focusing on that which is really totally irrelevant to who I am as a soul. We're not these bodies, we're the soul within the body. If we think that, we're focusing on all these things that don't make a difference. I mean, in the ultimate, matter of things, if you were going to die tomorrow, what would matter? All the things that you're worrying about, we were worrying about, all the goals that we've had, even in our so-called spiritual life goals, what happens to them? They're gone. They don't exist anymore. So really we should create this internal space by which we can focus on Krishna, focus on God. And God will fill that space, and that will become a space full of love and joy, and we'll become happy. We'll become happy as the soul. So we don't want this external energy to affect our thoughts, that we're always thinking about our plans and our ideas and the things we want. This is not a very good state to be in terms of advancing in spiritual consciousness. Even if we so-called dress like a devotee, come to the temple, chant, read, all these things, if we're allowing these externals to affect our mind too much, then we're going to have a very much difficulty. So example is Raghunath Das Goswami. Raghunath Das Goswami is one of the 6 Goswamis, the primary disciples of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was God himself. So he's a very elevated soul. Raghunath Das Goswami was born into a very rich family. And when I say rich, I mean he was born into the richest family imaginable at that time. A very rich zamindar. And so Raghunath Das, he heard of Lord Chaitanya and he had darshan of Lord Chaitanya. At that point, he became totally fixated on associating with the Lord and experiencing the bliss of Sankirtan. He became totally fixed on that. And so in an attempt to go with the Lord told him, wait, you're not ready. The time has not come for you to leave all your external affairs. Because Raghunath Das, at this point in life, he was involved in very many external affairs. His parents were seeing that he was kind of leaning toward a sadhu life. He was becoming very detached. So let me marry him off. So they found the most beautiful girl imaginable, and they married Raghunath to this girl. And still, he was, attracted to leaving home and becoming a mendicant, a saintly person. And so Lord Chaitanya said, "No, you don't need to leave yet. Do all of your external things very nicely, but internally, you should be meditating on me." So you see that we can perform all of our external duties nicely, whatever we have to do in the world, but we should not let that affect our internal situation of being fixed in Krishna. Then we'll be solid. Like Raghunath Das was always thinking of Krishna, yet he was being very expert in his external activities. That includes being a husband and doing all of his different activities. In fact, it's one of the angas, the 64 angas of bhakti is don't neglect day-to-day activities. So if we're neglecting our, jobs or our, our duties in our whatever position, then this is, how can we're not making progress. So the example Lord Chaitanya gave was interesting. He said, just as like if a woman wants to cheat on a man or a man wants to cheat on a woman in a relationship, they're always thinking of their, paramour, their other partner, but they're acting like they're, this perfect, they're actually acting as a better partner so that the opposite partner doesn't become suspicious. So in that way, we should be doing everything very nicely, but always thinking of our real lover, who is Krishna. We should always be thinking of Krishna. So this is once again is demonstrating the power of internal life. Krishna says, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmaram yudhicha mayaputa manobudhir mam eva shashi samshayaha. Just therefore perform your prescribed duty, in this case of fighting. Whatever your prescribed duties, perform that while at the same time remembering me in the form of Krishna. With your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will come to me without fail. So this is what we're trying to establish. So in terms of practicality, and this is important element of this, is how do we really establish this internal life? We have to hear. We have to hear a lot. What you put in your ears is very, very powerful in terms of what you're going to think about. So if you don't hear, if you don't absorb yourself in Srimad Bhagavatam, in Bhagavad Gita, it doesn't really make a difference how much we do. If we don't absorb ourselves in the holy name, if we don't have that, if those sound vibrations, these spiritual sound vibrations, which are coming from the spiritual dimension into this dimension and manifesting here as physical sound, but they're not. They're actually spiritual. And they have the power to totally obliterate the elusive material energy that's in our consciousness. If we don't put that into our brain deeply, then we will not have an internal experience of Krishna consciousness. So therefore, we'll be what's called a pretender, Krishna says. Huh? We may dress in orange cloth, we may do so many things, but what we're doing is we're thinking of Maya. However, even a person, sincere person, working in the world, family, all of that, a person who engages in this process of hearing and chanting about Krishna, that person is a pure devotee, elevated soul. Lord Chaitanya, when he was in South India, he was with one Brahmana, and that Brahmana also fell in love with Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Chaitanya was staying with that Brahmana during the rainy season. They were always, every day they were discussing Krishna, and they were discussing beautiful topics of spiritual life. And he became so attached to Lord Chaitanya. And so then when Lord Chaitanya began to leave, he followed Lord Chaitanya. He said, I'm joining you. I'm leaving my family. I'm becoming like you. And Lord Chaitanya said, no, no need to change your position. Better you just stay in your position, current position, and focus on Krishna. You don't need to change anything. So if we engage in that process is so powerful, like Maharaj in Bhagavatam class this morning was speaking. The holy name is powerful enough. The Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita, this sound vibration, this activity we do, is powerful enough to totally elevate us to Krishna consciousness. But the problem is we don't do it. We'll focus on so many external things. So this hearing process, and this is the point, is that when you really absorb yourself in hearing these topics, hearing the activities of the Lord, hearing about the form of the Lord, the glories of the Lord, the qualities of the Lord, hearing about how wonderful the Lord's devotees are, when you engage in hearing, and when you chant Hare Krishna with the intention of it going into the ear and into the heart, then you will have an internal life. And an internal life satisfies you enough to say, I don't want this. I don't need this. In fact, it will give you enough knowledge. You'll develop enough jnana to realize that detachment doesn't just mean detachment from things. It means detachment from our own thoughts. And this is going to open a door. If you can come to that stage of internal spiritual life, of having an internal experience with God, if you can come to that stage in your Krishna consciousness, it'll open a door for you by which you'll have a wonderful life. Every minute of your life will be wonderful, and it'll improve so many things in your life, no matter what the externals seem to be. So, just going back on another example here about hearing. Narada Muni, the greatest sage in the universe. We're hearing, right? Some of us who are in our Bhagavat Sangha on Wednesday remember the story we're reading, Narada Muni was a little boy, 5-year-old boy. So he's a 5-year-old boy. He was a 5-year-old boy living with his single mother, and they were very poor, and they were serving the Bhaktivedantas, the Brahmanas. And in serving those Brahmanas, Narada Muni began to hear from them. What was he hearing? What was he hearing about? I'm not hearing. I'm not hearing. Sorry. He's hearing about Krishna. He was hearing about the topics of God. He was hearing about this philosophy. He was hearing how he's not this body. He was hearing how he's the spirit soul. He was hearing how he's part and parcel of Krishna, and he has no reason to suffer. He was hearing all these wonderful topics that we get to hear every day. Sometimes we may take for granted, huh? He was hearing all about these wonderful topics. And what was the result? He was hearing in the proper mood. He wasn't hearing with a bitter mood. He wasn't hearing like, I have many other things to do than this. I would not even be here if I wasn't told to be here. Well, if you hear in that mood, why would Krishna even manifest for you ever? Srimad Bhagavatam is Krishna himself. So if Krishna himself is Srimad Bhagavatam, we're treating Krishna like, holy name is Krishna himself. We need that. But actually, if Krishna walked in the room, we wouldn't, if we have this consciousness, we wouldn't have the eyes to see actually. How many people knew Krishna was actually who he was, even on the... Prabhupada said only a few dozen actually understood Krishna when Krishna was here. When Krishna was incarnated and actually as an avatar appeared on this planet, very few people even understood Krishna's position. Because the Yoga Maya covers us. And Krishna doesn't allow himself to be seen unless we develop this richness in our hearts. So Narada Muni heard, and then of course the Bhaktivedantas left. he took some prasadam from them, and then his mother was bitten by a snake and she died. And Narada Muni said, all right, that's it, I surrender to you. He wandered out into the forest and he became a great sage. Krishna appeared to him in his next life by that practice of intense sadhana, hearing and chanting. In his next life, he got to be Narada Muni. So we also, can aspire for very wonderful things in our next life if we make this life very beautiful and Krishna conscious. So this door is opened up when you have this internal experience. With this important point I want to make tonight, and then connect this to Mayapur, to my time in India, and the big realization I had over this trip is that a rich internal life equals rich relationships. And this is the important thing to meditate on here, is that if we don't have in our lives, if we don't have good relationships, then we will not have a good life. This totally fundamental. Doesn't matter how many rounds you chant. Doesn't matter how much money you have. Doesn't matter if you live in the slum or in the palace. If you can't have a good relationship, where's the joy? There's no joy. No one wants to have a divorce. No one wants to, fight with their friends. No one wants to have trouble with their parents or their seniors. So if you can't have a good relationship, then you cannot be happy. Furthermore, if you don't have deep relationships, I have relationships, I get along with everybody, but you don't have any depth to those relationships, you can't be happy. It's just all external. We really, as spiritual living entities, we need deep, loving relationships. And this was what was beautiful about Mayapur. And I found myself just weeping so many times while I was in the Holy Dham, and gratitude, because I have, when you live in Mayapur for a year, you meet so many people from all around the world. And I have friends that are so dear to me in Africa, in South America, in Asia, in Russia, in Europe, in the US. And somehow or another, all of us just happened to be at Mayapur at this time. And I was just having, I was eating prasadam with devotees, and I was meeting with these devotees, and I was having what my Guru Maharaj calls a soul-to-soul relationship. And it was just striking me how important and how necessary it is to have a soul-to-soul relationship with a person, with the people we have in our lives. And how when you are Krishna conscious, when you develop in Krishna consciousness properly, you can have a soul-to-soul relationship. And you can touch someone in the soul. You can actually change people's lives by being a devotee, because you know how to talk to people in terms of the soul. And that means you have to have a rich internal life. And this is the essence of spiritual life. We are Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is our, it's the supreme scripture. And Chaitanya means, consciousness, the soul. Chaitanya Charitamrita literally means the activities of the soul in eternality. Prabhupada says that in the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. So what is the soul doing in its eternal existence? It's having loving relationships. So if we're not having loving relationships in our life, deep relationships in our life, we can understand that spiritual life is far, far away, in a sense. It's very far, far off. And so the way we develop this internal, this loving relationship, we have to become okay with ourselves. Because you cannot give anything in life. You may make a joke. You may even do something what's, so-called kind. Some of the most narcissistic and manipulative people are the most givers. Am I wrong? Anybody who's been around they're always giving gifts. They're always like, I did this, So really. So it has nothing to do with that. And some of the sweetest and most loving people I've ever met, they really don't have anything to give physically. They're like, totally broke and poor. They have maybe 2 sets of saffron cloth and a little mat. But they can give you so much by their character. Because they have this internal life. So if we're always caught up in externality, if we're always caught up in our bodies and our goals, and there's different levels to it too. You can say that if someone's external in the mode of goodness, they're basically feeling they're superior than others. That's kind of their consciousness. I'm superior because I'm good. If someone's caught up in the externals, in the mode of passion, in the rajas, they're basically thinking, I have more, I need more, I have so many goals and plans. And there's mixes, right? My goals and plans I have goals and plans, but they're in the mode of goodness. So there's mode of passion and goodness mixed. And if you're external in the mode of ignorance, it means, you know what? I got a nice place to stay. I got 3 hots and a cot, as my Gurudev says. And I don't really need to do anything extra to, I'm not really trying to go back to Godhead or be spiritual. I'm really just trying to, find a cushy place to live in life. And, whatever, I have some good friends, and, I get free food on Sunday and Thursday, snacks on Wednesday, pretty good. If I come once in a while to the morning, I get free food. So it's like, this is the mode of ignorance. I'm okay, but I'm not really attempting to actually go deep into my spirituality. So when you cease this activity and you actually develop an internal reality where I'm no longer affected by all these externals, my mood is no longer going to be subjected to the wants and desires in the changing external world. I have become fixed in who I am as a soul. And it's not like, we say, sometimes just like we get too ahead of ourselves. Oh, well, who am I in the spiritual world? Forget all that. You're a servant of Krishna. This is who you are. Mamaivampsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. Manastashtash indriyani prakriti stani karshati. This is your existential position. Living entities in this material world are my eternal fragmental parts. Every living entity is a part and parcel of Krishna. But they're struggling very hard with the 6 senses and the mind. So you're part and parcel of Krishna. You exist to have this loving relationship with Krishna. If you start identifying yourself as that, I'm part and parcel of Krishna, and you start acting in that capacity, ignoring the fact that we have so many so-called desires, we stop identifying with them. The lust, the anger, the greed. I'm part and parcel of Krishna. I have nothing to do with that. Actually, I don't want this. Whatever you think you want, I don't want it. I really don't, because that's not me. Whatever plan you have, it's not you. I'm part and parcel of Krishna. Begin acting on that platform by chanting Hare Krishna deeply, by hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam class and the reading the literatures and doing these activities deeply with intention, and minimizing all external, like I'm all for humor, because humor is a part of deep relationships. I've been really meditating on that. Humor is an important part of deep relationships, but I think that so much of the time it becomes a shield for having a deep relationship a lot of the time. And I was seeing that, thinking about devotees, and I was seeing how I was with some very elevated souls, His Grace Radheshyam Prabhu. And I was seeing, Radheshyam Prabhu does so much work for our movement. I can't even explain to you how much work he does for this Krishna conscious movement. But an extremely intense sadhana. I watched him chant Hare Krishna from 5 a.m. to 6 p.m. without stopping. So extremely deep, devotee, and works very hard, but allows time for these, these loving moments, these humorous moments. But if we just remain external, like, haha, yeah, then we're not allowing room for the real message of Krishna, to have Krishna Katha, to speak to each other about Krishna, to touch soul to soul, to change lives, to change each other's lives. So we act in this process nicely and properly, then we will have a good life. This is the key. This is the real key. And so the process by which we do that is to contact the deepest part of the soul. The soul People don't even know what the soul is generally. It's a thing we talk about in spiritual circles, but they don't know what the soul is. But the soul is essentially, the soul is the part of you that is connected to God all the time. And so you have to live on that platform to be genuinely happy in life, to be genuinely spiritual in life. So in the external world, there's zero stability. There's always changes. So when you come to that platform of the soul, now I'm not affected by those changes. I'm okay. And when you become okay, then you can give to others. This is what my spiritual master often says so much of the time. And once you become genuinely okay in yourself, not that you're fully self-realized, but you have enough self-realization to know I'm a servant of Krishna, nothing's going to change that. And I have a positive existence. When you come to that stage, now I can give to others. Now I exist for that service. And then you can actually touch people soul to soul, and you can have real relationships that are deep, that are based on Krishna. So when I was there in Mayapur, I have one friend, Param Dham Prabhu. He owns a silver shop there in Mayapur. And, I started going into his shop looking to buy silver. But I realized actually he's not a silver salesman. That's just a front. He's actually a Krishna Kata dealer.
Okay.
And his silver sale, he does not care about selling silver. It's a front for him to lure people into the shop and read Bhagavatam to them. And this man is obsessed with hearing Bhagavatam. I mean, he hears Bhagavatam all day. And is never a moment where he's having like a dull realization. He is having serious realizations, always sharing serious, deep realizations. And you go in the shop and he's just like, boom, this chapter, this verse. And we would just talk for hours. And every day I would just spend time with this devotee. And I felt this was the most, not a guru, not a sannyasi, but one of the most intensely deep relationships. And genuine love. And speaking of Bhagavatam, having him sharing his internal existence and my hearing that. Go into just the power of the Holy Dham. Tamal Hari mentioned to me that I should share some realizations. So I like to do that. Speaking of internal life and just, the greatest spiritual personalities that I've met, so much brahmacharis are not sannyasis, are not gurus. The regular people who are having a very intense spiritual experience. I needed my head shaved. So I went to the Ganges, and on the bank of the Ganges, there's a lot of guys shaving heads. I went to one guy I always go to, where I go to him and then I cross the street and I go to the Ganges and bathe. And so I sit down, this is Bengali man, been going to him for years. Started shaving my head. He's listening to a class in Bengali. All I hear are 3 words. There's only 3 words I recognize. Krishna, Radha, and Mother Yashoda, and Damodar, 4 words. And he's listening to this class and he's just like relishing it. I'm seeing him relish the class, shaving my head. And the class is obviously coming to some crescendo moment. And I hear the speaker go, Hari Bol. And the Prabhu goes, Hari Bol. And he starts weeping, puts down the razor, puts his hand in his chutter and starts, uncontrollable tears. I'm thinking, my God, this is Mayapur, This is the barber. The barber is having a Baba Bhakti moment. And I'm just, I'm like, take your time, I'm like half shaved head, Take your time, Prabhu. He's like, sorry, Prabhu. Then he goes back to shaving my head. Naturally, afterward, I, fell down at his feet and said, please bless me. These Damvasis are so. So, you have a silver shop, silver salesman, a barber. There's, so any regular person, if they're internally Krishna conscious, then none of this matters is the point here. This is only a way in which we express our internal position. So everybody has the opportunity to have this depth of Krishna consciousness. And this is the point we're making tonight, is that if you go deep with your practice of chanting, you go deep with your practice of hearing, Kata. You make an effort to have soul-to-soul relationships and see each other as part and parcel of Krishna and treat each other that way, then you will make progress. Furthermore, nice other story. I told this to a few people here. So in Mayapur, there's a lot of Muslim people. And so generally, sometimes the Muslim people and the Hindu people have some clash. And in Islam in any way, shape, or form, but there's been some serious violence in Mayapur in terms of, the Muslims attacking the temple. They blew one devotee's leg off, some years back. So it's kind of a violent situation. And they have, there's obviously that element to that particular spiritual practice and how people become very violent. But in any case, not everybody who is Muslim is like that, and the majority aren't. So still, there's always in India and Mayapur, there's that you're Muslim and I'm Hindu, and that's that, we'll do business together. But my spiritual teacher, our spiritual teacher, Gurudev, he was, he started to take a liking to one Muslim rickshaw driver person who drives a little golf cart, takes people around Mayapur. Because this man was punctual and he was on time and he spoke good English and he was fair. And so we started to take a liking to him. And so Gurudev, started to say, I'll give you so much, and you just, for a whole month, you just take me. And so, but, because Gurudev is a prime example for me in my life of a person who touches people soul to soul. He speaks to people soul to soul. He does not deal with externals. He's speaking soul to soul with everybody. And so that is felt more than how we speak. It's actually, we feel it when we're around such a person. And this Muslim man felt it. He started to really like Gurudev. Started to really like him. So much so that when we left, he was sending us happy Ramadan. He even sent Gurudev a picture of Gurudev's apartment and said, I miss you, Maharaj. And so we came back and then when we needed some help moving furniture and things for Gurudev's apartment, Ali said, I'll help you. No charge, Out of the kindness of his heart, he helped us. And so he's doing service because Gurudev is just, the kindness of Gurudev is affecting him. I'm seeing this. And so we get back and Ali texts me, he says, his name's Ali. He texts me, he said, I want to see Maharaj. He comes to the house, knocks on the door and says, Maharaj is asleep. We just got here. It's been a long day. Come back later. Comes back later. He brings his whole family. Beautiful Muslim lady, very beautiful young little baby girl, and his mother-in-law. And they all come in. And Gurudev, he greets them with so much love. He sits down, they're sitting down in his house. And Gurudev brings out a little wool chadar and puts it on the baby. He says, it gets cold in Mayapur in the winter. He gives it to the baby, and you can see that he just charmed the ladies, these Muslim ladies. And Ali's so happy. And Ali takes his baby, puts the baby at Gurudev's feet, says, please bless my baby. So here we have a Muslim asking this Hindu saint to bless his baby. And so then now I've started to notice as I'm in Mayapur, Ali's taking prasadam at the ISKCON kitchen. So I'm really seeing the power of this Krishna consciousness, this soul to soul. Because when you have a rich and stable internal position, you can have rich and you can give unlimitedly to people. You can actually affect people soul to soul. So this is the power and the importance of developing that internal existence. And I think the prime example we can give is Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada was so deep. We mean fathoms and fathoms deeper than any devotee we can, see today, practically. Srila Prabhupada was so deep that, Prabhupada can lead a kirtan and, hundreds of people would become devotees because that internal experience is coming out. And so, we have Prabhupada's books. There is internal ecstasies, Prabhupada said. These books were getting a glimpse into Prabhupada's internal life, Srila Prabhupada's internal life. So in Mayapur, there's so many, examples of these beautiful relationships. I had one friend I hadn't seen in a while. I did Bhakti Bhai Baba with him last year. We met up, we had prasadam together. Just that act of having prasadam together is so sweet. And so we hear in the nectar of instruction, we hear Dadati Prati Grinati, Guya Makyati Prichati, Bhunte Bhajayate Chaivam, Sadvidam Priti Lakshanam. That there's 6 loving exchanges between devotees. So, we don't take it for granted that we have these loving exchanges. Dadati Prati Grinati. We give and accept gifts. We give a gift and we accept gifts. And if done in the right mode, and if that gift is a devotional gift, we can see how that, you can feel how that relationship goes deeper, and gratitude develops, and love develops. And we accept that gift and we give. Dati Prati Guya Makyati Prichati. To reveal your mind in confidence. To genuinely reveal your mind to a devotee. And to have that devotee reveal their mind to you, to listen. That if you have a trouble, sometimes if I have some big pain in my heart, I just go find one of my dearly beloved seniors and I just share my heart, and I feel I'm so relieved. Immediately I have relief from that struggle. So many times I find myself in Mother Sandamni's house, telling her this or that. So, Guya Makyati Prichati, Bhokte Bhajayate Chaivam. So we take prasadam, we offer prasadam, we take prasadam together. If we do these activities, and this seems so simple, but this actually constitutes real life. You don't need anything else if you can do these 6 activities with each other. You don't need a big house. You don't need a lot of money, but you need this. So there's no question of spiritual life without the Vaishnavas. There's no question of being happy without associating with Vaishnavas and having beautiful relationships, which comes first and foremost by you taking responsibility, us taking responsibility for developing an internal atmosphere of Krishna consciousness. That means chanting Hare Krishna, going deep with the mantra. Don't take kirtan for granted. It's one of my big things. I find so many times, we'll be in a kirtan, and you find people, they're not chanting, they're just standing there, and the eyes are going this way, they're thinking of this or they're thinking of that. So we don't take kirtan for granted. Every kirtan is an opportunity to go deep. Don't take japa for granted. Don't take reading or hearing classes for granted. Do all these things with deep intention. And we'll see how that internal life increases. And we have beautiful, loving relationships. And it improves everything in our existence. So thank you very much. We'll have some discussion. Perfect timing. So let's have some discussion. Huh? Do you have any comment, questions, challenges?
I've never heard anyone talk about Islam as being prone to violence. I didn't know that was a thing. I don't know, maybe that's not my thing. Where did that come from? Why did you say that? I mean,
Well, I don't want to get into that. You have to ask me that in private.
Thank you.
Yes.
So what led me here today is I had like I would say epiphany, where I came up with the conclusion of helping our community out. So in my community where I live at, I stay downtown. It's a place called Downtown Motors.
The fork? Fork, please?
Yeah, I'm gonna get it. So I came up with a conclusion last night. I took a spiritual bath, and this spiritual bath, it cleans my soul in ways like I couldn't even explain. And when I did this, I just had a rush of like empathy for the world, and I started doing like my research on the place that I live in. Found out that it has mold in the place. It's been up for like since 1950 something, and it was a debate with closing down the place because it has an infestation of birds, right? And so it's a health hazard. And so tomorrow I'm going on this journey to make a difference with this community, to bring this awareness to, to everyone. And I just feel like this was a way for me to give Krishna thanks.
Yeah, everything we do, Krishna says, everything we do, we should do for Krishna. Ultimately, whatever good we want to do in the world, we should dedicate that to Krishna. What I hear from you is you want to help others. Most primarily, the basic principle of that is I want to help others. And you mentioned community. And so we can have different levels of consciousness and expand. The first level is I want to help myself. That's the basic level. Or I want to help my family, the expansions of my body. Now I want to help my race. Now I want to help my species. Now I want to help all living entities. But when we expand that, the genuine desire of the soul in its true nature to be of help, is that I want to serve every jiva, every living entity on the soul level. And so I also wanted to help people in my spiritual journey. I was an environmental science major, wanted to help the environment. But upon realizing that we can't really help anybody unless we help their soul, you see. So therefore, the most beneficial and magnificent thing you can do to help people, first and foremost, is to find your soul yourself. Find who you really are as a soul. Have that solid connection, that internal experience with Krishna, and then share that with others. Because even if I save 1 million people, I do all the, give them food, shelter, water, everybody has to experience death. You can't stop death. But the only thing that can stop death is Krishna consciousness, because the soul awakens to the reality that there is no death, and that soul exits the cycle of birth and death.
So, be wise.
Be adaptable. Yeah.
Flow. It brings me back to Bruce Lee.
Yeah. I love Bruce Lee. Cool guy.
When I was younger, it was just like Bruce Lee everything. And I just been, diving deep into myself. And I felt like a part of his soul was a part of mine too. And so helping the community, building a sanctuary for kids, who don't have the opportunity to learn about martial arts and how to balance the emotional regulations within their body. So that was something that I had to revisit probably like 10 years ago, something that I wanted to do for people.
What's your name?
Ashe.
Ashe.
Well, please come see us again. We do this every Thursday. We also have a nice thing on Sunday, 5:30 in the temple room. A nice feast. Okay, Hare Krishna, we can cut this off and we'll continue talking and hanging out. I just want to cut the video off so I can start eating. I just took one bite of cake. Too good now. I have to. Good, nice, Kirtan. Good. Thank you.